Hi there, class. I'd just like to talk about our kind of first unit here this summer and some of the assignments that we're going to have. Basically, I'm going to take our first full assignment, which is the pre-design presentation, and I will break it apart into individual pieces. I think the summer semester is really very compressed, and but that can be kind of hard for students to, I don't know, organize their time. We don't have the advantage of in-class time to say, now we're going to do our precedent study, etc., etc. So I have broken it apart into different assignments here. Obviously, week one, we just had our introduction. I'm hoping that everybody will just kind of reflect on this particular project type and kind of get going. But now, with week two, we're going to really get going. There is the first thing we're going to have is a precedent study. And really, with that, there are a number of buildings out there that are really well designed and also well described. If you click on the assignment, a lot of these are conversations or I guess discussions on Canvas. So what I've been trying to do is with each discussion provide a brief description. There are even some web links. You can, in this case, read about hospice design, a couple of articles that are online, also some examples. Of course, for all of you, if there is a hospice near you, now I actually don't really even know where everybody is, but certainly if you're on the North Shore of Massachusetts, the one that I mentioned in the initial introduction is a really great project, and they do allow visitors to these projects. And you can just, if you want to physically go to the building, you can actually go and take a tour. If you want to go to the one in Danvers, let me know, and I do know I have a contact there who will give you a brief tour. But otherwise, there may be one near you which you can go to visit. I've been to one in New Jersey, which is very nice. I might have mentioned it's a former convent, so it's very interesting. But anyway, you can also just go on the internet and do some hunting around, and I've provided two examples here. And for the precedent study, really what I'm looking for you to get out of those is, what's their philosophy toward patient care? Most of these hospices will say, we want to support the patient and their families, or we want to ease an individual to the next stage, or whatever it is. What is that philosophy? And also, do they have a kind of concept for how they're treating the patient rooms and the public spaces? Often these projects will say that we want patients to be able to spend time with their family. And what that means is that in the rooms may be designed such that a group of people can be there. The beds may be extra large, or there may be large windows. Very common to have a family kitchen, that kind of thing. So take a look at your precedent. And I've written out kind of some of these ideas, so I'm not going to read every word, but try to take a look at those precedents and collect together some images and some basic findings. Bullet points are probably ideal, because what I'm going to have you do is post that image to Canvas. And what you can do, you can go down here to this reply button. I'm not sure it's going to let me do it. Oh, it will. Okay. I'm in kind of a special student view here. And then you can embed an image. And the easiest thing, you could literally just drag and drop an image in here, but if you embed the image, you can go and on Canvas, go to course files, and then you can upload a file. I guess it won't let me upload a file here because I'm in this special student view here. But anyway, then you can just click on the image and choose post or update. And it will post the image in a manner that everybody can see. Here's a lovely mushroom from my backyard. I'm sure you're all really fascinated by that. Anyway, and there is kind of an order here I'll post that so you can see it. There is an order here. Let me go back to our home page. the initial step that I'd like you to take is look at these precedents. I'd like you to get a sense of how these projects are put together from just kind of from the consumer end of things. Then I'd like you to consider your ideal site. So if you had your druthers and you wanted to create a hospice and put it in a building somewhere, where would you like that to be? What do you think would be the ideal place? And this ties back to the first assignment and your thoughts on kind of what is an ideal way to pass. There are so many different ways and cultures, everything from, as I mentioned, people who want to do everything to preserve life at all costs. But then there's even like in Shakespeare, those of you who've read Shakespeare, when Shakespeare talks about the ripeness is all. What that means, the Elizabethan concept, is that you are supposed to die at the height of your life, at the height of your abilities, not what we kind of commonly see on TV where people kind of become old and decrepit. For Shakespeare, the idea was that a good life is where you die at the kind of pinnacle of your career. Anyway, whatever it is, the ideal site for that might be something that's in a city where it's connected to other buildings and people, and it's part of the social fabric. But other people prefer a building that's out in the countryside, that has a view of the mountains, that's very isolated. It's entirely up to you. What I'm hoping that you will do in this exercise is just kind of an imagination project. Where would the ideal building be? Should it be close to public transportation, or should it be adjacent to a hospital? Or would that send the wrong message? Would you prefer it in the suburbs, which is where the examples I've mentioned so far, the Care Dimensions hospices, that's where those are. But, some people would prefer to have it out in the woods. That's entirely up to you. Either way, you can just kind of list the criteria. And again, if you click through, it'll have a description there. You can just actually list text-wise the criteria. Just hit reply to the main discussion. You can also hit reply to each individual response, and I would like you to do that for all of these homework assignments. This is kind of the only way we can interact, but as to kind of get your 10 points credit for each of these assignments, I would like you to reply to everyone else's assignment and mention how does that strike you? Does that seem appropriate for this type of project? What do you think of what they're thinking? These can be short responses. I don't want vast tomes of writing, but please do reply. Again, this is we aren't going to have a stand up in front of the crowd and make a presentation type of arrangement in this class. So please respond to these discussions. This will and read the responses. Obviously, this is the feedback that you're going to get, and that's where I will put feedback as well. So as I scroll down in this list here, you can see week 2, we have the precedent study, the ideal site, and then I'd like you to go on to what are called terms of criticism. And again, if you've taken the theory course, they probably talked about that a little bit. And to me, terms of criticism are kind of how you would like your project to be judged, and in particular, judged by you. I often ask students in a studio setting, is your project, is it good? What do you think? And they sometimes look at me like, how would I know that? And of course, that's a little worrisome. We should know if our projects are good. And how do we know that? Well, we use terms of criticism, kind of ideas about what defines success in your project. And I put some examples in here in the terms of criticism assignment. My design will incorporate all the senses. And I think we often use these phrases. My design has a homey feel to it and masks the medical equipment so it's out of sight. Any of these ideas are perfectly fine, but which one of these are important to you? And in particular, when you think of your project and the ideas involved with the project, which of these terms would you like to be at the top of the list? Of course, I'm going to have you make a project that's code compliant and that is functional and that works and solves the kind of programmatic issues that come up. Anyway, speaking of programmatic issues, the next assignment, the week of the, I guess, ending June 26th, I think I've got those dates right, is a program analysis. This is basically your garden variety bubble diagram, and I would encourage you all to be very thorough in your bubble diagram and really indicate obviously all the programmatic spaces, and I will post to this this section here on Canvas, the kind of watered down program so that you have something simple to work with. At this point, we are not going to have a building. I don't like bubble diagrams when they are in the building. I find that it distracts you from kind of studying the programmatic adjacencies, separations, lines of sight, acoustical connections or separations. I'd like you to look at those programmatic elements in isolation from the building. We will also have a section for concepts, and again, post these as an image file, JPEG or PNG. I'm sorry, not PNG. JPEG or, yes, PNG are preferred, not PDF file, please. It doesn't like PDF files on these discussions, so just JPEG or PNG. And these concepts, I'm particular about how you do concepts. I would prefer, and am putting in my requirements, that you have both a visual and a verbal concept, and those can be separate. Those should be separate. I find that sometimes we put up a picture of a tree, and then we say my concept is tree, and then we have the word tree, and then we deconstruct both the word and the visual thing. And to me, I like the idea that a verbal concept can be more abstract in nature. For example, growth, or expansion, or transition, all those wonderful words. I like those words kind of on their own, not glued to some image, because sometimes we are drawn to an image and we can't say why, or we are drawn to a quote, or a poem, or even a line of dialogue from a movie, and we don't know why. And I honestly feel that in a lot of these projects, going with your gut is the way to go, particularly with these concepts. So anyway, and again, post an image file, JPEG or PNG, and make comments on your peers. Finally, the last piece of the sort of pre-design warm-up is the sketch that I'd like you to do. Just one room. You can pick any space in the project that's a programmed space, even the healing garden. These can be hand-drawn. You can whip them up on the computer, and you can even do a kind of collage-style image if you prefer. I'll put up a couple of examples here in this module so that you can see what I'm thinking about. But annotate those sketches to indicate if there's anything important that you're thinking. And again, these don't have to be photorealistic renderings. Sketchy space is fine. But if it's really important to you to have daylighting in the patient room, or I don't know, a fireplace in a family space, in a family room, then by all means indicate that. And it can be as rough and ready as you want. And again, you can do a cut and paste kind of collage if you prefer. So, and yes, indeed, we do have to have an actual presentation. But what I'd like you to do, there is a pre-design presentation. What I'd like you to do is post a PowerPoint file, and I'd like that file to have your narration. And what you can do is, I'm in the Mac version here, but I believe the PC version looks exactly the same. Go to the slideshow tab. There should be a button to either record narration, or in the Mac it says start recording from the beginning. And what you obviously will need is some kind of microphone, so you might want to test this one out before spending too much time recording it. But please, by all means, record each slide, each part of this assignment, the ideal site, the terms of criticism, the program analysis, and concepts and all that. You can put each of those on their own slide. And ideally, this would be 5 to 7 minutes of discussion here, 10 on the outside what I haven't figured out is how I can make it so that everyone else can see these assignments. So for now, just post them to the assignment that I have listed here on our modules here on Canvas. Now, what do we have to have in our assignment? I will also post the shopping list. We love shopping lists, don't we? And each of basically it's an assignment which collects together all the sort of mini assignments that I have created: the terms of criticism, precedent study, concepts, the building program, and the sketch. So again, I would love it if everyone could record clearly. One last piece of advice when you're recording your projects: one, do a run through so that you make sure that you address all the issues that you'd like to talk about. I have these questions, and I put a lot of these kind of open-ended questions in here, so you can take the discussion wherever you like, and I would use your precedents and what you're seeing from other students as a guide. But please try to keep the presentations not too long, but not too short either, and go through, read all the assignment descriptions before putting together your presentation. And I'm looking forward to seeing everyone's submissions.